All right, looks like everyone's about done, so let me start by introducing myself. My name is Jeannie Trudell. I'm currently serving in the business school at Southern Wesleyan University. This is one of my favorite workshops to conduct, and I've done a number of these for different corporations and nonprofits, etc. Because you know, conflict, it seems like we deal with them every day, right? Anybody deal with conflict?
No, we don't have conflict here.
I didn't figure. This is such a perfect organization, yeah? So let me just walk you through, well, let me just ask a question. How many of you dread conflict? How many of you are okay with it for the most part? Yeah, and how many of you love dealing with conflict?
Elmer, you know you run too.
Don't say that.
Run to the
Okay.
She has some conflict with that. There you go.
So today there are three objectives that we have for this session. At the end of today, I'm hoping that you would have a better understanding of what the types or the sources of conflicts are. Because when you know where or what type of conflict you're dealing with, then you're better able to find strategies to manage that conflict. Will we ever be conflict-free? I don't think so. I'm pretty sure that we are in agreement with that. The second objective is that we will recognize the various conflict management styles, your own included, because when you know how others deal with conflict, then you would also know how to talk to them or work through conflict with the other person. This is especially important if you're managers, but it is important whether you are a manager or worker. Conflict at home, right? I don't know about you, but maybe it's just me. I do have conflict at home. I mean, you know, if you don't live alone, if you live alone, you might have conflict with yourself or with your dog or your cat, right? So let alone people. And then the last thing that we are going to cover, and hopefully you get away, take away, would be recognizing that there are appropriate strategies to deal with the different types of conflict. That sound good? Any questions about what we're going to cover so far? Okay, I'm going to move on to the next thing. What comes to mind when you hear or see the word conflict? So this I'm going to chart very quickly. It's interactive, so you guys will have to help me. What comes to mind? Quickly.
Stress.
Why am I not surprised? Oh, okay, that doesn't work. There we go. Okay, somebody says stress. What else?
Personal.
Stress, personal. What else? What else comes to mind? The word conflict, and then immediately you jump to? Come on. I'm sorry, I can't.
employees.
Employees. Okay. What else? Anxiety. Oh, absolutely. What else?
Anger.
I was waiting for someone to say that. Is this the best you can do? Come on. Lay it on me. What else? Mm-hmm. Sorrow. What else?
Disappointment.
Disappointment. What else? Resentment. Anything else?
Challenge.
Challenge. Thank you, Charlie, right? Anyone else? Well, we'll start with this. What pattern do you see when you look at these words? Okay, you see emotions. What are some of those emotion words that you see over here? Anything else? Emotions, right? What else? Ah, who said that? Negative. A lot of negativity or negative association with those words. What else do you see? Question, can conflict,
All things that we can control,
it's all things that we can control or can't?
or can.
Can or cannot?
Besides the employees, can. But all the emotional things are things that we can control ourselves.
Okay, he asserts that you can control, the emotions can be controlled and it's a personal thing. Can we control our emotions? It depends sometimes. Sometimes it's harder, yeah?
I
Okay,
control my emotions, but not my body language.
very good point. Say a bit more about body language when you are in conflict. What do you experience in terms of your body physically? Tighten up, neck, what else? Chest tightens up, hard to breathe, faster heartbeat, what else? Recognize in your own body when you're under conflict, when you're in conflict, what happens to your body? Anybody?
Fight or flight.
Tense facial expressions. Close up, yeah. Observe when someone's talking to you and they look tight in their face. Their arms are kind of more protective of self. What else? I heard some other things over here.
Fight or flight.
Fight or flight. You feel like leaving or you want to just duke it out.
Murder in their eyes.
Okay, murder. So the eyes can tell something about whether a person is experiencing emotion during times of conflict. Does anyone get tingling hands and cold feet, sweat under armpits when you're in conflict? Common. Okay, you're not the only one. So, all right. Is there anything that you see that could be positive about conflict? Because I don't see much that. Okay, good. What about this? How can it be positive?
Process of resolving conflicts to make progress.
Okay, process of conflict can lead to progress. And over here?
Some people tend to like that challenge, that
Well, and not only,
adrenaline
yeah,
rush.
and not only that, but sometimes that's going to actually lead to the challenge may lead to something good.
Okay, excellent. So challenge can lead to something good. And I heard the words work through. Is that correct? Work through and getting to a better place. Very good. So what we see is generally when we talk about conflict, a lot of emotions. And sometimes it's hard to separate emotions from what we do when we are in conflict. Yeah? Okay. Now, I've got two pictures. Some people turn cold when they have to deal with conflict, and some people turn raging hot. Not just emotions, but your body reflects that. Yes? Okay. So we've established that conflict can be good, it can have a positive aspect. It has a lot of negative associations. Yeah? So, if we go with research does indicate that conflict can have positive outcomes. You can come up with better ways of dealing with workplace issues. You can actually have breakthroughs where teamwork can be improved if the conflict is worked through in a way that builds people up. The reverse is also true. Conflict can tear a team apart or can tear a workplace apart, make it very, very unpleasant to come in and make you dread coming into work. Is that true? Yeah. So conflict in itself is not good or bad. It's how we deal with it and what we do with it that makes the difference. Would everyone agree with that? Okay. One of the first tasks that we want to do is when you are in a conflict, okay, is to figure out what is the source of conflict. So I'm going to walk you through a short exercise right now. Each of you, think of a recent conflict you experienced at home. Okay? A recent conflict that you've had at home. Who is it? What was involved? Who was involved? I'll give you 30 seconds. How you felt? What was the matter of the conflict? Everyone got something? Okay. Now I'm going to change it and ask you to think of a conflict that you've recently had within the last 2 months or last year that you've had at work. Okay, same thing. Think it through. Does everyone have something? Too easy, wasn't it? Okay, I want you each to pair up with someone that you don't normally work with. And I'm going to time you 2 minutes each to share about the one or both of those conflicts. So 2 minutes each, pair up. Is that clear? Okay, so go find somebody that you don't normally work with. I think that at your tables or whatever, and each one has 2 minutes to share. Go. Okay, I'm going to get you guys to. I'm going to get you guys to stop. Wow. You know what's funny? Every time I do this exercise, it's very hard to cut people off because there's so much to talk about when it comes to conflict. Is that right? So let's share very briefly about commonalities in your experience. What did you pick up that was similar in your stories about conflict? Anything? You don't have to go into the details. I'm sure that you. It is what it is. So, are you saying that there's? Say some more about that. Is that? It is what it is, meaning.
It's just part of life.
Okay. So.
I mean, the examples we use are just, was nothing unusual. It's just
Okay.
part of life.
So it is. It is a normal part of life where it is common. Okay. What else? The two of you. What did you find out?
I think the way we handled it was similar.
Okay. All right. So you found commonality in the way that you treated some conflicts. Yeah. And you guys?
Same thing.
Yeah, and communication. Just getting the right people at the table and talking things out and listening to each other.
Okay, so the way that you manage that conflict, it sounds like you came to some conclusions that the way it's done or how it's communicated was important in the conflict that you experienced. Okay, great. This team?
Say, well, comment between ours, one was at home, one was at work, was money was involved.
Okay, money seems to be one of the stress factors, whether at home or at work. So we're going to talk about money and what sorts of conflict that could be, because that might be interesting. You guys?
Well, one thing we talked about is that with conflict resolution, there isn't always a resolution, and how that doesn't really fix the problem.
Very interesting point, because in the literature, sometimes people talk about conflict resolution skills. Can you actually resolve every conflict? No. That's why we call it conflict management. You can manage conflict, but not every conflict will end not every conflict will be resolved. Neither can you say, oh, it's done, I'm good. Because every time you finish a conflict, another one might start with the same people, with the same, within the same department, etc. Last couple of, last team over there.
I think what we both got from this, or what I heard in both our stories, is that sometimes there really isn't a happy answer. There's not a happy ending. However, you have to realize that sometimes things have to be the way they are, and that's just the way it is. I mean,
excellent point. Excellent point. There are times when a conflict will not end the way you want it. In fact, it's out of your control, and it's your decision how you're going to be okay or not with it. And whatever decision you make, there will be something that goes along with it. Make sense? Okay.
I think it's important too to say that in our situation we found that sometimes the conflict doesn't end happy for either side.
No, there is something called lose-lose. There's some win-lose, and sometimes it's win-win. And you have to have some wisdom about what it is that you choose to hang your hat on, or which hill to die on. Is that right? Yeah. Let's not talk about death. But let me go through this. I don't know if this is clear or whether you can see it. There are 5 primary sources of conflict, if you will, and learning to identify which source is involved can impact on how you manage it. Okay, so let me go through the more the easier ones to negotiate or to manage. 1, data. If the conflict is because you don't have information, lack of information, or misinformation, or is TMI, too much information, or where that's data collection issues. Those data, those conflicts related to data can be addressed by getting the right information or right amount of information. Okay? Number 2, interest. This is where you have to dig a little bit deeper. What's in it for you? What is it that you hold on so tightly to the conflict that you have to have your needs met? Okay? So for instance, if I were to have a project where I know it has to be done, and you are disagreeing with me about something to do with that particular project, but we both want it done, then both our interest is that we want it done. How it's going to be done, we can negotiate that, but unless we find out that we both want it done, I might think that you don't care, which would not be true. So that kind of interest conflicts can also be negotiated in terms of finding out what is it that you really want to have happen out of this conflict. What is it that you need from me that I can provide? And likewise, you find out from me about what my needs or interests are, my hopes, my concerns. Listening to people's concerns, you will find out what their interests are, and that can help you through the conflict. Okay? So let me give you an example of that. My husband thinks that, for instance, if he comes home and gives me kisses, that's going to be very good for me. I'm trying to get dinner on the table. My interest is not getting kisses and hugs or cuddles. My interest is getting the dinner on the table. So if he can help me get dinner on the table, the kisses and hugs would mean more later. Does that make sense? So that's one example of that. Third, source of conflict, structure. This is where you can find a lot of workplace conflicts, especially in under-resourced institutions where there's fights over resources. Where there's limited resources, you can't fix it. You can have all the arguments that you like, but you cannot produce more when there's not more. Correct? That can be negotiated. If you take this little pot of money for now, Ron, next time it's my turn. That's structural. We can fix it. All right. Authority issues, that's structure. Well, if you, Autumn, have an issue with a coworker who is telling you what to do but doesn't really have authority, then that is a structural conflict. Who gets to decide? Your supervisor will need to sort things out. That's beyond your control because you don't have control over that co-worker. Make sense? That's a structural conflict to do with hierarchy or rank or responsibilities. Those are negotiable. Now, if your conflict has to do with any of these three, great. There are strategies that you can use or utilize in order to move past the conflict. The more difficult areas are in the top 2 or 3. If you have a value conflict where it's fundamentally a different belief system, okay, or philosophy, those are very difficult because you will say, I'm right, and I'll say, I'm right. And there's right and wrong, and you will never be able to come to agreement. Make sense? So, right versus wrong, good versus evil, just versus unjust. So any conflict that has to do with stuff like that, like for instance, if your views about abortion and mine are different, you will never resolve it because you can't change my view, I can't change your view. Those kind of conflicts, you don't want to move into that area because it's a no-win situation. Make sense? Second area, relationships. You cannot change somebody's perceptions about people. Let's say I'm a racist. You hate that about me, okay? And we have a disagreement about about something related to race. You'll never win because you're not going to change me. That's a relationship issue, as well as values. If there's failed communications or repetitive negative behavior, let's say that you come to work late, or let's say you work together, he comes in late every day. Are you going to be able to change him? That's a relationship conflict. You can't do that. You've got to change it into a structural conflict, find a supervisor to deal with it. You can't change it. Does that make sense? Any questions or comments? And then the last one, And please, men, do not make any references to women and moods, all right? That's off limits. That will cause a conflict. Externals or moods. When there are factors in the conflict that's not related to the dispute at all. Okay, example. Beth has an awful fight at home. She comes to work and she is so still angry, disappointed, sad, etc. You try and approach her about something to do with work, etc. She might snap at you and you get upset. Well, you're not going to be able to fix her because she's struggling with that stuff. So what do? You might say, if you are at a place where you want to kind of limit the conflict, you might have to have a discussion about, all right, you know, let's find a way to communicate. Beth, if I'm ever in a bad mood, would you allow me the grace to say, Beth, can we return to this later because I'm not in a good place? You can avoid that kind of conflict. Make sense? Rather than make assumptions. That one is not as difficult, but if you go into relationships and values, you can't change people. Those are very difficult. So these are the 5 sources of conflict that if you, in your own conflict situations, try and figure out what type is it, because then you can figure out what to do with it. Okay? So relationship conflict, strong emotions. Doesn't that relate to all this? Some of it, yeah? So that was just a summary of what we discussed. So very quickly, in your own mind, that particular relationship that you had, the particular dispute that you had at work, can you identify which source or sources of conflict gave rise to that conflict? You don't have to answer. I'm just asking you to process. Likewise, in your relationship conflict or the one that at home, which one did it have to do with? Interest, as in unmet needs, relationship? Got some answers? Okay. So let me give you an example here. You're in a hurry. Your co-worker who knows you fairly well asks you to help with a task. This has happened before, I'm sure. She needs it done quickly. You tell her that you can't because you've got to go. You found out later that she's upset with you. Forget about the option because you're not online. What kind of conflict is it? So someone asks you to help. You say she needs it done quickly. You say you can't because you got to go, and then she's upset with you. What sources or source would that conflict be? Let's go back to this. Any guesses? Talk to your partner about it quickly. It's more safe. The 3 of you can talk together if you like. Okay, which one is it? Upset coworker. Okay, any brave soul want to call it out? Interest? Okay, say a bit more about that. Why interest?
Because the coworker was needing to get something done.
Good, okay, what else?
Data, maybe?
Maybe data because you don't know. You really don't know why she needs it in a hurry. Good, what else?
Structure, because it involves some resources you don't have, such as time.
Excellent. Actually, I believe that all of you are correct. So how would you deal with that? If that was the conflict and you identified 3 different sources, which one can you deal with more easily? What would you do?
I would go back and apologize to her if I made her upset and just tell her that I should have maybe taken a minute to explain to you that I had something else I had to do.
Good.
Yeah, if you would have come to me earlier, I'd be more than happy to take care of that for you. But, it's just short notice for me.
Okay, great. So structure, you can avoid it for next time. Relationship, where you say, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to brush you off. So you're taking care of both the task and also the relationship. Yeah? Okay, good. You guys, is this helpful? I hope. Okay, good. If it's not, then we better just go out and have lunch at the cafe, and Ron's paying. So Oh, wow. This is not being taped, is it? Relationship and structure, and someone mentioned interest as well. Okay, so if it's relationship, these are the strategies. If it's relationships, you want to encourage a direct communication, yeah? And allow for venting of emotions. Sometimes you are in such a hurry, that's okay. You're in such a hurry and you're so focused on the task, you forget about the people side. But if you don't allow people to vent, that's only going to escalate. Sometimes taking a few moments to listen to them, meet them where they are, it will kind of wind them down and you can move on, okay? Data information, obvious. Go get what is needed. I'll just highlight a couple more. Interest, you've got to communicate your needs. Just like what Jeremy and, what's your name? Next to Beth, behind Jeremy.
Dale.
Gail?
Dale.
Dale, what Dale said. Structural conflicts, negotiate any changes to time constraints. You've got to say, okay, we don't have time now, but can we do it later? Here's the timeline. That would help with some of that because you have to prioritize. Not everything can be done according to your timeline, unfortunately, right? And then values, you know, all you can do is encourage mutual respect to say we have to agree to disagree. We're never going to be able to meet eye to eye because if you're, you're this and I'm this, we're not going to be able to change each other. But I respect you enough that we can still continue to work together. Yeah? Okay, so refer to your instrument, the inventory you completed. Now go to the final page and record all your stuff and see which one is your primary, your top one or two styles, okay? Okay, let me just tell you a little bit about this conflict instrument. Thomas Kilmann inventory has been used for quite a number of years in various studies. It gives you some insight about your preferred or your natural inclination in terms of your style for dealing with conflict. Now, please don't get this as like a diagnosis, a medical diagnosis. It is not terminal. It is more a matter of recognizing what is your natural preferred style and also the situations where that will stand you in good stead. At the same time, it would be helpful for you to learn how not to engage in that particular style in different conflict situations. Does that make sense? That's why you're here, because you want to figure out how it is that you deal with conflict and are there things that you need to do differently, correct? So, that being said, how many of you had compromising as your dominant, your highest score? 1, 2, 3. The compromising is a fox. So that's over here. All right. I'm just letting you know where it is. Don't move yet. Now, who's got avoiding? All right. Thank you for being the avoiding is the turtle. Where's the turtle? Over there. And is there anyone high on collaboration, the collaborating owl? Anybody? Okay, you're by yourself, dear. No, just kidding. Okay, and then anyone is high on competition, the competing shark. Wow, we're missing that completely here. I might be the only one who's more naturally inclined that way. That's scary, isn't it? Okay, so let me just divide you into your little groups, and then you can talk about how you manage conflict and read the list in terms of what's associated with each of those styles. That's okay? Would that be all right? And Gail, because you're on your own, I'm going to combine the collaborating owl with the compromising fox so that you can discuss about what's the difference between collaboration and compromise. There is a bit of a difference, okay? So those who are avoider, who yes?
Is that an accommodating animal?
Yes, that's an accommodating. Are you accommodating?
Yes.
Okay, good. At least there are two of you. I'm sorry I completely missed that. The accommodating teddy bear is over there, so there are two of you who can go over there. All right, so accommodating teddy bears are over there. Avoiding turtles are over there. Collaborating, compromising foxes are over there, and I'm going to move that over there. Did I miss anybody else? I'm by myself, but I'm between the shark and the collaborating owl. So move over there, have a read of what's on those lists, and talk about how, what would you change about your conflict management styles and what feels natural to you. Got it? Go. You've got 5 minutes to do that. Okay, as we come back, let me share an insight that one of you, I think it was Dale, who mentioned this. Are we ready to come back?
Yes, we are.
Okay, good. Dale made a very, very insightful comment, and she said, you know what? On every team, you want a mixture of all these different conflict management styles. Because if you have one particular style only represented, like avoiding turtles, guess what? No, or someone who's called accommodating teddy bear. Jeremy wants it to be called accommodating bear because it's a little more masculine. So if you accommodate, what will happen with decision making? You know, who's going to take the lead? Or if you have a shark leading, or sharks, they will always be in conflict because they will always want their way or no other way. Yeah. So let me just go through this, some different strategies. You will meet some sharks in your workplace. There will be some who says my way or the highway. And whatever they say, they will push for only one way to do things. Has anyone encountered people who are like that? Yeah. Yeah. And their strategy is to compete, to control, to outwit, to coerce, to fight, force people to do what they want, you know, cajole. And they really love working with those who avoid or accommodate. Those teddy bears and those turtles, that's their favorite people. Okay, so you guys will work well with the competing sharks. Those leaders tend to have these characteristics: authoritarian, threatened by disagreement. They like to exert power. So that's some of the things that you see. And in terms of the characteristics, you know, they how others perceive you. I want to touch on these. Those who are competing sharks, people will see those people as bossy, uncooperative, impatient, commanding, intimidating, and so forth. And it could be hard sometimes. But with every style, there are some situations where it is absolutely the right strategy or the right characteristic to move your team on. Got it? So in this particular, conflict management style is great when you need speed in decision making. You want someone who takes the helm and say, we've got to do this, let's go, right? Or if there are some unpopular course of action that needs to be done, these people will make those hard decisions for you, and that's a helpful team member. So a collaborating owl, very, very easygoing. I think it was Cynthia. Cynthia says she's a collaborating owl, maybe. There was one. It's Gail as well. My preference is to do it this way. What's your perspective? And then you come to a common agreement. The strategies, these people like to gather information, get people, you know, to come together, look for alternatives, dialogue, etc. And the focus is on information gathering. Big on process, energized by controversy, not scared about change and growth and so on and so forth. Now, are there downsides to this? Absolutely. Can be emotional, can be so into the process and fact gathering that it slows you down. Might not be able to get a decision made. Okay? It is appropriate when consensus is important, when everybody needs buy-in, absolutely appropriate. So each of you, when you're in that kind of situation requiring some of this, you can adopt some of the strategies of other styles. Got it? This, I told you, not a terminal diagnosis. This is absolutely stuff that you can change or adapt your behaviors. So what about the avoiding turtle? Conflict, what conflict? You don't want conflict because it disturbs you, okay? So your strategies is to flee, deny, ignore, cover up, run away, and hope and pray. Not a bad thing. I mean, hoping and praying are good things to do, but not as a way of managing all crises in life or conflicts in life. So can be a bit passive or timid and inclined to moralize, do the right thing, a bit unfocused. And then what happens? How do people see you? Not wanting to take risks, a bit distant, passes the buck. Hey, I don't want to do this. I'm not in charge. I'll just, go with the flow or whatever. It can be good. If it's a no-win situation, victory is impossible. It's okay to avoid, or when you need more time to make a decision, then avoiding or saying, "Hey, not right now," is appropriate. Got it? Questions or comments so far? Do you see yourself in any of this? Strategies the strategies we've just covered. The characteristics, you accept default decisions. You don't contribute when people are discussing because you think I'm not going to raise any flags or what do you call that? Disturb the waters? Rock the boat. That's it. Rock the boat. I got to find my, analogies right there. And the accommodating teddy bear. Usually people with this primary conflict management style will say, hey, whatever you say, that's fine with me. And you agree, you appease, sometimes flatter. You prefer others to speak up for you, right? And can be, in effect, be careful because you may be ineffective in groups. You got to make people come together and get to decision making, not just allow things to just roll on their own. Okay, everybody's friend. This is a common characteristic. These people are great to be around with because they are loved on by everyone. You want friends who are accommodating because when you say, hey, what shall we do? Well, anything you like. Sometimes it can drive you nuts. It's like, make a decision, right? You can relate? Yeah. So when is it appropriate? When you wish to make amends, just like Beth said, yeah, go apologize, be accommodating because that if you value the relationship, then you would accommodate, all right? And sometimes it's also appropriate when you think that the other person can learn from a situation where you think he or she will make a mistake. So you accommodate, you say, hey, if you want to do it, many of us have kids, right? They want to do stuff, it's not good for them. At some point you might say, okay, I'll accommodate. You can have a boyfriend even though I don't think it's the best thing for you, but hey, experience that, learn your lesson, and then mom will say, I'm right. I'm just kidding. I'm only partially kidding, you know what I'm saying, right? Just saying. Okay, compromising, I'll back off if you do the same. It's almost like you have a pie. All right, we're going to negotiate and we're going to compromise. I take this side of the pie with more nuts. You take the side with more cream. All right, we're good? All right, next slice of the pie. At what point do you cut and divide and there's a sense of everything's equal? That's a compromiser, okay? Cautious, you don't want too much of the boat to be rocked. This is great when you have, when I say opponents, in any conflict, sometimes there's a power struggle, sometimes they're equal. This is great when there's equal power because then you bargain on the same ground, and that compromising style would be great. Be careful though, you don't want to be seen as wishy-washy or fence-sitting and can't make up your mind either, okay? And not dealing with the real issues, you're just treating symptoms or hoping that you compromise and not deal with the real issues. Got it? Any questions or comments? See anything of yourselves in any of these? Yeah, I know, is that right? Yeah, okay. So, final lesson is this, that in every situation, you can select the most appropriate style. Be aware of the shortcomings of your particular preference because it may not be the best thing for you or for your team members or even your family. So being aware is going to help you navigate some of these conflicts. Okay, last word. And recalling the conflict that you were experiencing from earlier, what conflict management styles did you employ in terms of, was it different between the home and the work? Jeremy, you're nodding.
Yes, they were very different.
How so? I mean, in terms of styles, what did you use for one and compared to the other?
So for the work one, it was more of a compromising thing.
Okay.
And then for the personal one, it was more just let it go.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
I found the same thing.
Okay.
Because one of the things is it said that turtles are distant, and I've never heard anybody describe me as distant.
No.
But at home sometime, I think I probably can be a little bit, like if I'm all into something and he's wanting to talk or chat or
Yeah.
whatever, and I'm like, I'll get back to you.
Yeah, yeah, leave me alone.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so based on these couple of stories, you realize that you do employ different conflict management styles depending on what stakes are involved, who and where. Okay, so you are capable of using different styles. Just saying. All right. It's interesting because my husband and I have very different conflict styles. I'm direct and he avoids. So we have to navigate that very carefully at home. Christy is nodding because she's got the same thing at home too. So I think as you leave today, think about how you would have managed it differently for a different outcome. So in every conflict, think about what is it that you can do, learning from the past and then using it for the future. Make sense? Okay, this is really the final slide. I gave 3 finals. As a manager, to increase your competence to manage workplace disputes, last 5 points, model the attitudes you want to see. What do you want of your team and what do you want in the workplace? If you avoid, you're going to find that people in your team are also going to avoid. So modeling is important. Identify the source of conflict. Which of the 5 sources are you engaging with, and then act accordingly. Focus on tasks, not personalities. You're not each other's enemies at the workplace. You're really actually on the same team. So although it feels more like you're on different path, on the battlefield, that's not the case.
Some that comes with maturity.
Yes. Yes, the ability to let go can improve with age. That is true. Address conflict in a timely way. It won't go away. You hope it will go away, but sometimes it has a way of breeding and then it explodes. So address conflict in a timely way. And then lastly, learn from conflict. There are positive effects from conflict. As someone noted, I think it was Charlie, challenge, good can come out of that. Okay, so thank you very much. I kept to our time. This is fantastic. Thank you so much for coming. If any of you are interested in our programs, talk to me. Dr. Beth Fizio is our new dean of the dean and program director of our new RN to BSN program. I'm so happy she's decided to join us. So please get to know her as well. Okay. Any questions, comments? Has this been helpful?
Yes.
Okay. I'm so glad. Now go practice and then let me know how you practice, okay? Thank you.